Do you want to mount your trusses onto a wall, but then you do not know how to do it? Well, in this video, you're going to find exactly that out. Make sure that you watch the video until the end. Now, let's get into it without any waste of time. Now, I'm going to give you a 9-step guide to doing it. It's going to be very, very simple. After this video, you might be able to do it by yourself. But remember, keep patience, and implement. The more you implement, you get better. Now let's get started. Step number one. Step number one is going to be delivering your trusses and taking them to the roof, right? Onto the walls. That's the first step. Pulling the trusses. You gotta do that. It's the number one thing. Assuming that your trusses are probably already ready, like you bought them ready. You didn't have to make them by yourself. But I'll make the video educating you more about making your own trusses. Now let's move on. Step number two. Now you wanna go ahead and just trusses on sides are straight up 90 degrees. You gotta make sure that your trusses on sides with the gables, they are straight up like 90 degrees upwards. That is going to just change everything. That's where you actually start like to move and make things happen on top of the roof. Now we go to step number three. Now we're gonna go ahead and measure the overhang on your trusses on sides, right? Both sides in 4 corners. You go ahead and then you measure the overhang. The objective there, or the goal, is to make sure that you have equal overhang each side. Your overhangs, they're gonna be equal in all of your corners, right? That's the objective there. You go ahead and measure those and measure those and measure those. Now, as for us, usually we get an overhang of like 28 centimeters, 28 centimeters. But that is based on a roof that is overlapping with only one tile. Sometimes we do roofs that do overhang with 2 tiles. So that is gonna be, longer than the 28 centimeters I just spoke about, right? But the objective is to make them equal. If they're not equal, then you just like shift your truss a little bit, and then you measure it again, and then you measure it again on the other side, and then you make sure that your trusses are overhanging equally on both sides, right? Like the other side of the truss and the other side of the truss, and then you go away from that wall to the opposite wall to make sure that the same thing is applied, right? Once you've done that, we move on to the 4th step, right, which is inserting the button on top of the trusses. So that will depend on whether you are doing a steel roof or you are doing a blank roof, right? So in most cases we use the steel trusses, but also we do get jobs that require us to use the blank trusses, right? We're absolutely capable of doing that 100%, but it'll depend on what I just said right now, right? But the main thing I'm trying to say here is that it's either you're gonna screw or you're gonna nail. That's all. But you gotta do something between those to make sure that your trusses won't be moving and shaking like this, right? Then you move to the next step, which is the 5th step. Now you go ahead and then you just put a fish line over there, right? You make sure that you have a fish line. The objective for fish line, it is to make sure that all the trusses that are in between your trusses on sides, they are gonna be very, very straight. They're gonna align and make something that has one solid spinal cord, right? If I can call it a spinal cord, but I think it's relevant for me to call it a spinal cord, yes. And then you move to the next step, which is the 6th step, right? Then place the rest of your trusses on top of the divided wall, which is something you've already done, and you've even nailed them already onto that button that you firstly raised, inserted. And then the following step would be to insert the TT button in the bottom of your trusses, right? Now that your trusses are all straight up, they are now in position. In any case, if you don't know what a TT button is, it is the very first button that you do insert in the bottom of your trusses, right? The objective is to strengthen the roof and give it a little bit of a balance. But if you do not have a specific TT button for a blank roof or a blank trusses, you're gonna go ahead and just double your regular buttons, right? You double them and then you just nail them on top of that truss. That is gonna result into a TT. But there is a blank that is designed specifically to be a TT button. You gotta get that. I do recommend you buy one. Yes. And then you move now to the final step, right? Because now you just inserted your TT buttons on both sides where the water drains, right? Now the final step is that you mount all your trusses with hoop irons or the steel, right? Now you just did that. Congratulations, you got the information. I hope you find that's very, very useful. Subscribe, like the video, comment below. Let me know if I'm wrong about anything. Let me know if I'm right. I'm gonna cherish that a lot. I hope to see you in the next video. Cherry you.